Holy shit! So, this happened last week. An email from Dehancer, the film emulation plugin I've been eyeing for months. I wanted to test it properly, feel it, use it in my own footage, include halation, grain, rich color contrast. So I graded the entire intro using Dehancer. Here's my honest review of Dehancer. Alright, let's jump right into the review. I have a couple of shots here that I recorded right here in my workspace using the Blackmagic design camera. I've already set them up in the timeline, and the only thing I did before applying Dehancer was build my node tree, and I just control the exposition and the white balance. So we have here an outside shot, inside like an interview, and another one like an interview. So basically what I'm gonna do is try to just use Dehancer to create the color grade, but I'm also gonna be using other tools inside of DaVinci Resolve, plus some DCTLs to create the final look. So before we dive into Dehancer, let me show you the base node tree that I have. What I have here is a soft blacks. What I do is a matte of the whole thing, and I just use the matte of the black parts or the darkest areas to take away the mid detail and get those smooth skin tones, as well as like that very analog look that normally you're looking for, because for me, the blur that you get if you blur the whole image is not as natural as if you just take away the mid details of the blacks. Then you have your exposition, white balance, which I use gamma linear without any luminance mix. You just kill it and use the gain wheels. So basically what you do is move the gain wheels, and this works as if it was inside of the camera, and you white balance your shot. Then you have power windows, and then contrast, and finally Dehancer. So the way that I use Dehancer is that I use it in 3 different nodes. I use Dehancer first here on this first node, and what I do here is basically my creative look. What I do is use my print films. I try to use the color head as well to move around the colors. And then I do some saturation afterwards, because I really like to control the saturation separately than the density. What I do here is use the 2383, either Kodak 2383 or the Fujifilm, inside of Dehancer as well. The reason why I do this is that I like to use just the color of the print look instead of the contrast as well, because this way I can control it way more, and I like to do my own contrast instead of using a pre-made contrasts that the 2383 has. Even though it's very good, sometimes I feel that is too much and I want to control it separately, so I use only the color. Finally, I use it here as well, which I'm going to change the name to effects. And what I do here is I use Dehancer again to use the effects inside of the plugin. So I use grain, halation, bloom, and sometimes I use the gate as well. The reason why I do it in the end is that because normally people like to use it in the beginning of the node tree. Other times people like to use it in the end of their node tree. I prefer to use it in the end of it, so it affects everything. But it's up to you, you know? If you want to use it in the beginning, you can use it in the beginning as well. I like to do it in the end. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I've already corrected the exposure and the white balance. Let's find a hero shot, which I think for this one is going to be this one. And let's see if we can jump right into Dehancer. Contrast, I feel like that's good. Let's jump right into Dehancer, right? Let's see, in this shot, what I would like to do is, first of all, I'll normally go to my last node, which is a DCTL that I like to use. I like to split it 4 ways. This way I can see exactly if my skin tones are correct, if my exposure is correct, and if my saturation is correct as well. And what I see here is that it's missing some saturation, which I'm just gonna put it right here. What I do in the saturation is that I change the color space to HSV, kill the channels 1 and 3, and then just use the green channel to control the saturation. And I'm gonna take away some saturation from the gain and just put it in the gamma. The reason why I do this is that I don't want so much saturation on the highlights, because I want them to be as neutral as possible. So I think this is good for now. And then we're gonna give some density as well. By the way, if you want to use the DCTL that I'm using is mononodes. And you can find it on the website of the mononodes website. I'll leave it in the description below. I feel like the skin tones are a little bit magenta and I want to turn them a little bit greenish. So I'm gonna go here in the balance, just pull this down just a tiny bit, and then like that. Okay, next position is all right. So let's go to Dehancer, right? So here what we're gonna do in Dehancer, we're gonna start with Film Developer and try to see if a little bit of color boost, maybe like that. Instead of using the slider in the middle, I like to just control it over here, because this way I have way more control over the tool that I'm using. I think this is all right. Contrast, I'm gonna do it here if I need to. As of right now, I feel like this image is very contrasty as it is, so I'm not gonna do anything. So let's see. What I like to do is give it a little bit of film compression. What is this going to do? You can see it right here. And it's taking away those highlights and just bring them down. So this will be the way that in analog film will be, the highlights will be controlled. So the roll off on the highlights are always way better in analog, in my opinion, because it just comes out like this, and you don't have a peak on the, so you don't peak or you don't clip on the highlights in analog. So this tries to mimic that. In this case, I'm just gonna take a little bit of the impact and tonal range. So we still have the highlights a little bit high. And we're gonna disable and enable, and you can see just a little bit of the difference. Then I'm gonna leave expand, and because the only thing that the expand tool does is that you can control your black points and your white points very well. And if you move them around, you can pull them up or pull them down, like so. If you want to use this tool, I normally use it to give the black point, just turn the black points a little bit higher. So just in case my shadows are clipping or something like that, I'll leave it on a little bit higher. In this way you have the milky kind of like shadows that you can get in analog. In this case, well, actually I think I'm gonna use it. I'm just gonna bring it up just a tiny bit. The only reason why I was not gonna use it is because I'm gonna control it in contrast in the node before, but let's use it. Let's see how it goes. Now, prints, I'm not going to use it because, as I told you, I'm going to use it afterwards. And let's see, color head. Here I think I'm going to turn the highlights a little bit bluish. You go too much and then just go back. I use the sliders here. And then the shadows towards the yellow. A little bit, so it's a little bit warmer. I think I want the shot to be a little bit greener, and cyan as well. I like the yellow, I like how it is. I'll give it a little bit more saturation though. I feel like it's missing. And inside of the density, I will give it a little bit more in the inside of the skin tones and the reds as well. What I like to do here in this node is to just come here to your luminance versus saturation and just bring that down, roll off like that. This way I prevent the highest of highlights to be too saturated and they just look like they should. Do a little bit more. I want to control it very well, so but we have space here to be able to expand the saturation. I'm just gonna do a tiny bit more. I think up to there. I never like to leave it too orangey. That means that it's kind of clipping, or it's going to begin to clip. But this looks good. Looking alright. What I should have done from the beginning is apply the Kodak 2383, because it is going to give me a little bit of the saturation. So I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to print. And let's see. Fuji. I think Kodak, because here it really asks for that really warm tone. And here inside of print film anyway, what you can do is target your white and bring it towards the blues or the yellows in this case. So what this mimics is, inside of DaVinci Resolve you have the LUTs to that basically mimics the Kodak 2383 look, and you have three separate LUTs. You have the neutral, then the D55 and D65. That's what you got. And this basically means that you have either a cooler tone or a warmer tone. In this case, we want the warmer tone, so you're gonna leave it as it is. Yeah, you're gonna leave it as it is. It looks good. And as you can see, it gave us a lot of saturation, so we didn't need to put saturation there. I think this looks good. I'm not gonna move it any further. The perfect way to do your grading is try to do it as little as possible. So this way nothing breaks and you know where everything is in case you need to come back and then change things. What I'm gonna do is here in the DCTL, always leave this space for DCTL, which is DCTL from Kazi. Kazi is a colorist that is very well established in YouTube. And this is one of his tools, which is the QT color compressor, which I like to use to compress colors behind the subject in case I need that split tone effect. So what I'm gonna do is choose a blue-ish tone, turn that compression here all the way, and then cut it to about there. What we're doing, just turn, you see this green, just turn a little bit bluish, and then you feel like more of that separation going on. So finally, in the effects, you can now have fun and then just use any effects that Dehancer has to offer. In this case, I'm going to use a little bit of grain because I really like the grain that it offers inside of Dehancer, because it offers the 8mm 16, 35, and 65, which is real grain that was scanned and then used inside of Dehancer. And you have the various ISO. You have 50, 250, and 500. In this case, I want 50 because I don't want it to be too strong. And you can see right there, it's already looking very good. I'm gonna add a little bit of bloom, just for the highlights to be a little bit... What bloom does is just take the highest of highlights and then do a little bit of roll off towards the middle tones. So what this does is give that little bit of glow, not too much. So what I want to do is maybe a 65. And you can see how much that does. And of course, this is a very emotional shot, so we want that very emotional, I think, glow applied to it. We're not going to apply any halation here. Yeah, I think it will be too much. But you also have the halation here tool, which again has 8, 16, 35, and 65mm scans, and is very close to what would be originally inside of an analog film. So now what we want to do is, I think here what we want to do is isolate the subjects here to really give that emphasis in like this hug that is happening right in front of us. So what we're gonna do is put a gate here, and I think Super 35 is exactly what we want. What we want to do is take away the perforation. So the perforation is these things right here, which you can give it a little bit of exposure. You can see it is the perforation that you would have in film, is what basically the camera would use to roll the film and to progress the shot. But we don't want that as of right now. I think we're gonna offset in the X axis, so it's very much in the center, and then you can just see. I think what we want to do here is defocus the gate. And there you go. You can see from log to finish in just a couple of steps. You have that very analog look with Dehancer. So let's go into another shot. Let's go to an inside one. And as you can see, we're going to find a hero shot. Here what I have done is basically I made the look beforehand. I just wanted to show you the node tree, but I made the look beforehand, which I'm going to show you right now, which is this one. So in this one, what I did And I'm going to take you a little bit by bit here. What I want to do is, now that I look at it, I just want to take the lightest part and just bring it up by 10. So we have a little bit more light inside of or on his face. So what I did is basically use Dehancer here as well. The only thing I did was using the color head as well to bring a little bit of a warmer tone into the shadows, a little bit of a lighter tone into the highlights. And you can see here, if I go from this version, which doesn't have anything applied to it, just exposition and white balance, to this version, you can see how much more of that density and that split toning we have using Dehancer. So what I did here, I used the print Kodak 2383 to give again that warmer tone that I wanted. And then in the contrast, I just basically pinpoint my mid-gray and then just lifted up my shadows just a tiny bit. Normally what I do is editable splines and then bring it up and then bring this like that. So we still have like that dark shadows, but they're not clipped. I used a little bit of the DCTL just basically for a split toning and a little bit of like, you can see it right here especially, and on his pants, that it just turns blue and it's just a little bit more of that split toning effect. And finally what I did is came back to my power windows and used the depth map to bring all the light that was behind him, just bring it a little bit more up. And this way it really emphasized the light that I put back there when I was recording. Finally, we're gonna go to the last shot, and as you can see here, again, the only thing I did was I took care of the exposition of white balance, and the final shot would be something like this. The only reason why I'm not going note by note here is because what I essentially did was the same that I showed you on the first one. I just took care of the exposition white balance. Here I used the depth map again, so I can bring the highlights that are behind a little bit down, because it was too high for my taste, and now it's a little bit down. I used the DCTL again, which will be here. Just to bring a little bit of the blues into the wall. And yeah, I use Dehancer. I normally don't use the film prints, but I would use it if I want like if I don't have an idea of what I want to do in the first place, I would use something like Kodak Vision 3500T, 250D, and Kodak Portra 800 or 400. Those are my go-for film prints that I like to use inside of the hand. So what I basically did here was a little bit of grain as well in the end, a little bit of bloom, I think, yeah, a little bit of bloom, a 65mm, which is not something that you would see per se that is very like prominent, but it just gives a little bit more of that punch inside of that final grade that you want. And again, in this one where I'll do my grade inside of this node, what I will do is basically just come to the color head and do that split toning effect. And if I really want to, in this case, I came here to expand a little bit of the white points and the black points, so it separates a little bit more and creates a little bit more of that contrast. And yeah, I don't use film compression that much, or I do use it sometimes. Film Developer, I use it sometimes as well to give a little bit of color boost or contrast boost if I need to, but those two I like to work on the node before or the node after, just because I like a little bit more control. Yeah, the HSL, I will just use it for some of my creative look again, instead of like color warper, or maybe I will do curves so I can change some colors, and then in the end I would sharpen a little bit. This was my review of Dehancer. The only other thing that Dehancer offers is as well a mobile app. What I've been seeing from the mobile app is that it's a little bit slow on the video. So if you want to try for yourself, the only problem you're gonna have is that if you want to edit videos and play back, it's a little bit slow and it's a little bit heavy on the phone. Anyway, unfortunately, for video, it's not my preferable method to edit things, but I do love the fact that it has a mobile app and you can just have your phone and just take photo, or I can just take photos of whatever I want. For me, I use my phone to take photos of everything instead of a camera, and I can just take it and basically use one of the presets that Dehancer offers to edit the photos. And in this way, you can have basically a pre-made photo inside of your phone without the need to put it back into your computer and then put it back in your phone. That's what I meant. The only thing that I would say against Dehancer is its price point. Even though you can buy it for just a limited amount of time, and then it's a little bit cheaper. And then you have, depending on what you want as well, if you want the premium version, which you can use the print films. Again, because I use it in a separate node, maybe I wouldn't use it just Dehancer just to have the prints, because you can use it inside of DaVinci Resolve, the ones that you already have. The only thing is you have to turn it into Cineon beforehand, or maybe you can use just a LUT that was pre-made and then you can get it out there in the internet. The real thing is that you start tweaking your image and it's like chemical recipe, right? It's very, very fine-tuned to a specific look that you want, and I think it's beautiful. And you can see from the images that I just created that they were done very fast and they turned out to be very professional. And that's what I like about Dehancer, is that it's one plugin that I can just apply to my whole node tree and get a professional look within minutes. So it's definitely one thing that I like. One thing that I like about Dehancer as well is that you can use it inside of the web. So they have a website that you can just go and you can try Dehancer on the web instead of having to use it inside of Premiere or DaVinci Resolve. You can just use it directly on the web, and you can get results that are very much close to what I did here. The only reason why I do it inside of DaVinci is because I'm used to DaVinci. I'm used to work within a node tree structure, so this is what I use it like that. So it's definitely heavier on the GPU. One thing that I don't like is it always opens with a preset and the reset button is all the way down. So what I did to prevent that is just I created the node tree and just saved it, and now I don't have to do it anymore. But if you're gonna use it, just be aware that it comes with a preset and you have to go all the way down to the plugin to disable all tools, and then go all the way up to start using the tools if you want to do it in that way. I think Dehancer is a perfect tool if you want to just use one plugin to use in your workflow. And if you want to buy it and give it a try, then use my code in the description below, which is MINS10, and you can get a 10% discount in your purchase. And yeah, I think that is basically it for this review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.